Okay, good afternoon, everyone, or let me say good evening, depending on wherever you are. Welcome to mentorship session. Like we normally do on Sundays, we get to meet with our mentors who come around to talk to us, encourage us, and try to give us one or two advice and open our eyes to be able to understand better why we're here and to be able to access as much resources as they could make available for us. Like I've said earlier, the purpose of this program is not just to run a normal training sessions whereby you probably acquire skills on digital marketing, on the data science, and the rest of it. But for you to be able to build capacity to be able to deliver as consultant, freelancer, and like I also normally mention that the whole idea of this mentorship and training is not just to train you, it's also to prepare you for the opportunity ahead, because sourcing business as a platform is actually to provide the opportunity to be able to get connected to those who will give you job either locally or international. Okay, I think was it not yesterday one of the sessions someone actually asked that after the training, what is the future like? What are the opportunities available? Now, let me quickly say this: the the focus of this initiative is not just to train you, is to prepare you for jobs, because this platform is designed to attract jobs from outside Africa for us, for African skilled professionals to be able to take advantage of. So this evening, we are going to be having full 2 hours with Muge Coteli. She is, I would say, she's actually a woman of many parts. She's a lawyer. She's a business strategy consultant. She specializes in fintech. She's practically into exactly what we do on the sourcing business. She's a board member of the EU Tech Chamber, and she has been so magnanimous that she has made herself available as a mentor on this initiative. So it's an honor to have her this evening, and I believe that at the beginning of her presentation, probably she will be able to introduce herself better so that some of you who are getting to meet her for the first time can be able to know her better. So, Ms. Muge, you're welcome. How are you doing?
Hi, Femi. I'm doing very well. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you.
So maybe like Femi said, it would be meaningful for me to place a couple of further words as to my introduction. I have been working with Femi on the introduction session as well. That is how we met. And that is how he came up with the idea to introduce me as a mentor in this program that I'm very glad to take part of. So as to my background, I have 7 years of experience in building and developing and selling digital solutions, leveraging the power of technology. I have been recently, I have graduated from my International Executive MBA. I have a double master's degree in International Corporate and Commercial Law. So this is for my background. In terms of languages I speak, for some of you that might speak that language, I speak French, German, English, Turkish, but I correspond in English for every matters concerning my work. And today, I have decided to introduce my mentorship activities as with the topic of empowerment and leadership. Because from my own experience, unfortunately, we know leadership as we have seen them happening in businesses. We have seen leadership as we have seen it happening in governments, but we haven't yet understood what leadership means as to us individuals. The downside of this is, if we are able to understand what is leadership for us, we're also able to do something about it that will make it impactful for our own path. If we are not able to do that, then we are literally missing some steps that would help us, like stepping boards, to climb up the ladder of success and personal development. So this is why I chose that topic. Now I'm going to share my slides. Femi, just give a little check as to whether this works. like you did before, please.
Yes, you can share a slide.
I am on it.
Yes, okay, I bring it on. All right.
All right, very good. All right, so let us start. So in this session that will last more or less 1.5 to 2 hours, I guess, given the exercises, what we will do is we will go through each slide, and some of them will have exercises on it. I'm gonna sometimes look into the chat to make sure that I see your points once you mention them. Otherwise, I will stick with my slides. And what we will do is we will take a high-fly overview of what is meant by empowerment and what is meant by leadership in its essence. And it starts with us, with ourselves. And that's the part one. Building on top of it, there will be a part 2 coming up next week. And in that part 2, we will take a deep dive into certain aspects of what we will take a look at today. All right, so let's start with the start. We know that everybody talks about leadership. We have heard that word before. It's something that comes up in the news all the time. People talk about being a leader. Many people think that they are leaders. So what is new about the topic of leader? How does it correlate with anything that you would like to do in your current role and in your role as a freelancer? And why should you be interested in a topic called leadership when you are here to learn how to become a freelancer? So I would like to invite you to write your thoughts in the chat or write your thoughts down on a paper. I'll give you maybe a 2 minutes time to think. I'm not going to check the chat, so this is much more for you guys to, have some exchange of thoughts. Just write your thoughts down. What is it for you? What's leadership? What does it mean for you? What is it about, leadership? I'm going to start. You have 1 minute.
Write your thoughts in the comments.
All right, so that's 1 minute. Like I said, I'm not going to check everything that you exchange on in the chat. What I'm going to do is I'm going to continue, but I'm going to give you all the time some time frame to look into these questions that we will go through today. First of all, what is most important is to distinguish leadership from management. There's a distinction to make there. So management is much more about command, control, correct, which is a military way to look into this, and about delegation. So it's the classical hierarchical way to define what is leadership. What we have seen in early days, the command, control, correct, it's you have a boss, that boss tells you what to do and you do it without questioning it. That's management. And most corporations still today have managers. Leadership is about motivation, inspiring, reassuring, empowering the people, developing the people, uniting forces. It's about building a long-term vision, becoming a coach to others, enabling others to do what they have to do. Be a role model. So it's leading by example. Be appreciative of what others do. Say thank you. Be positive, and understand what the others feel, how they can interpret certain situations, and act accordingly. So the difference really lies in the empathy. While management is a question of competence, leadership is a question of attitude. And we will get to this later on, but overall, if we are to understand leadership, it first starts with the ability to voice, the ability to manage the energy, and the ability to showcase resilience. And we will look at it from another angle today, but I will bring up these topics again next week so as to deep dive on certain aspects that we will look into today. But it was important for me to mention it up front. In leadership, you first need to feel empowered, and then you need to leverage your power. Because only when you feel empowered do you feel your power and are able to leverage it. So this is as a starting point. Now, building up on that, we all know that we have self-limiting beliefs. So this is also a little bit in human nature. Human beings have the tendency to think that they cannot do things. It's in particular true for women, and we'll get to this in a moment. But it is a trend to have a little voice in our minds that think that we cannot do something. So to all of you in particular who have never been freelancers, taking that leap of faith and moving into the direction of offering services as freelancers might be scary at first. But this is a self-limiting belief, and we will walk step by step towards the goal of liberating you from those barriers, because it is time to change the way that we look at our own capacities. And surprisingly enough, this is absolutely irrespective of the degree of seniority. And I would like to tell you a story that might illustrate that. One day I met a colleague of mine who was a member of an executive committee in a bigger international, so multinational organization. That person came to me and said, Muge, you know, our organization is not doing good. The atmosphere is not so good. I don't feel it. We're not performing the right way. We don't perform as we should be performing. But, you know, all my hopes are with the new CEO. He's going to start soon. So I'm pretty sure that everything's going to be better after he starts. And so I asked him, I mean, you've been executive committee member since years now. What have you done to impact the status quo? And he said, well, I cannot do anything. I'm an executive committee member. I'm not the CEO of the company. So imagine that we're talking about very senior people with a lot of experience and a lot of achievements in terms of hierarchical moves within an organization. And they too lack the self-confidence and have self-limiting beliefs as to the impact that they can have. So that's just to open your eyes to the fact that we are all in the same boat, and it's in your hands to look at your own capacities differently. And we'll get there. But first, let us check man versus woman, what is in there. So for all the women that are on this call, men often believe that they can do a task even if they do not possess some key skills. And men on this call, I would invite you to self-critically look at the sentence, because this is very true. Unfortunately, women often do not believe that they can do the task, even though they have qualifications, and sometimes the right qualifications for the job or for the task. Now, both genders are essential for society, but for some reason, it's a historical reason, one gender has left a larger space for the other gender. And the problem is our world today, and we all know what is happening currently on the planet, and we also know difficulties in terms of natural resources that we are dealing with much more consciously since decades. Our world does not have the luxury to leave out half of our society's potential. In other words, our world needs to understand that we need to tap into whatever unused female potential that is out there. So I'm inviting everybody on this call, every one of you, to go invite women that can offer services as freelancers to join this movement. Now, as a next exercise, I'd like to invite you to take 5 minutes to think about how you could explain to a little girl, it can be your daughter, your sister, the importance of gender reconciliation. So why is it important? And 3 steps to get there. So the how. We can take 5 minutes, but I think 3 minutes would be enough. I'm going to time it for 3 minutes, and we can continue from there. All right, let us get back. If we move on from here and we build on what we have been saying earlier, we see that in particular after the 2 years pandemic that we've been through, we are actually facing a very new world. This has been recently supplemented by diverse political forces that have been shifted as well. So we have to look at our world from a very different angle today. And it is a fact that we live in a world filled with volatility, uncertainty, a high degree of complexity and ambiguity. And in such a world, leaders have to abandon old styles of looking at their role, right? So we're talking right now in terms of leadership within communities and within organizations. So old styles of leadership need to fade away, and we need to focus on empowerment, collaboration, trust, and transparency. And we will see in a moment how this applies to you as freelancers or future freelancers. First, let us take one more step back and look at the different leadership styles. We have the authoritarian leadership. So the advantages of the authoritarian leadership is, of course, it reduces time to action. The decisions are made faster, they're consistent, and there is no real way to budge, right? So it's quite clear what we're dealing with. The cons are that it can lead to rebellion. And of course, because there's no empowerment, it kills creativity. I would like to invite you to think about these terms from both aspects, right? As a freelancer and as an organization supplying certain services via freelancing. Those will be your clients that you will be dealing with. So it's important that you look at it from both angles, right? Dear colleague with the mic on, so the next leadership style is the participative leadership style. So of course, if everybody can participate, well, that creates a strong team, strong bonds within the team. And if the team bonds well, you have a high degree of productivity. Now, the con is that the decision-making is time-consuming because until we get aligned within the team, it takes some time. And because everybody, the compromise needs to be found, well, sometimes you don't reach the optimal decision. You reach a compromised position, which might be of a poor quality. Now, delegation leadership, that's where innovation and creativity are highly valued because we delegate the power to create to others. That can be top down, but it can also be laterally, right? Delegation leadership can happen on a lateral level. We just give away the potential power for innovating, creating, or building. That creates, of course, a positive work environment because everybody feels empowered. It's within the whole concept that lies empowerment. Now, the disadvantage is that, well, it's not quite clear who does what sometimes, so that needs to be very well structured. And it's more difficult to adapt to change because if everybody feels empowered within a team, and we'll get to how the team affects you as freelancers or potential future freelancers, but if everybody feels empowered, well, then everybody wants to lead. And it's difficult to adapt to changing environments easily. As a next step, let's take a look at the transactional leadership. So the transactional leadership is, I give you this if you give me that. Now, that's easy to implement, easier than the two previous ones, less easy than the first one if you have the decision-making power. But it's easier to implement than number 2 and 3. And it enables to cut overall goals into small deliverables, right? You can project manage well. Now, the disadvantage is that you have less creativity in the whole process because you cut the process into small pieces as a leader. And there is no empathy. It's all about transaction. It's about what do you get if you give this. That's what it's about. Not empathy, not really creativity. And finally, there's transformational leadership. Transformational leadership is not only to get from a status A to a status B within society, an organization, a company, whatever. It's not only for that. It's in general the ability as a leader to adapt to transforming and evolving or developing environments and offer your position as a leader in an adequate manner, in a corresponding manner to those differences and changing environments that you go through. As a next step, now that we have looked into those 5 leadership formats, I would like to give you 5 minutes for each of these questions. The first one is, which of these leadership styles have you most encountered in your life? And why do you think that is? It's important. The second one is, which leadership style appeals most to you? And why is that? And the third one is, do you think that the frequency of some leadership styles over others differ with each generation passing? So do you think that your parents have known other types of leadership styles than you? And if so, how? So which ones? And why do you think that is? Maybe I won't give you 5 minutes, but I'll give you in total a total of 10 minutes for all 3 questions so that we can move on after that. So let's meet again in 10 minutes. right.
All right.
If we move on from what we've seen, so we have seen leadership at large, and now we should move on to leading others. So within leading others, we have three core aspects that we need to look into. We have first, in order to be able to inspire and guide, we need to be able to communicate effectively. And as freelancers, this is exactly what you will have to do in your collaborations with fellow freelancers and in your collaborations with your clients. It's not about what you will tell people, it's about what the people will hear. So it's always about the audience, and the audience has their agenda, has their priorities, has their strategy as to how they want to go about those priorities and those goals that they have in their agenda. So it's really about finding a language and a way to speak to your clients and to fellow freelancers in such a manner that your message arrives at destination. The second aspect is influencing others. So there are two sub-aspects as to it. You have influencing others in order to inspire them to open doors for you and to join your movement or join your activity, or as freelancers maybe purchase your services. But it's also influencing others in terms of inspiring them, motivating them to join you in your efforts, so as for you to be able to offer more comprehensive services. Because, and we will see it in a moment, your skills are limited. So you need complementary skills that come and complement yours, so as for you to be able to offer a more comprehensive offering. And the third aspect to leading others is about managing people. So managing people is different from leadership versus management, what we have seen earlier. Managing people is about, well, how do I manage their expectations, and how can I help them do what I need them to do in order for them to perform well? So what's your stake in it? And how do you make sure that these people you work with or you work for do whatever it takes so that the delivery, the ultimate delivery, is exactly what you were aspiring for? That's managing people. It starts with managing their expectations, and it moves on with managing what they need to have in order for them to perform so that it suffices to satisfy your own goals. That's leading others. Now, again, I was about to give you 5 minutes, but let's take 3 minutes and reflect on the three dimensions. Think about where you stand in terms of your own abilities. You can share your thoughts in the chat. Maybe others will share as well. But it's really about reflecting on, well, how do you stand about leading others? You can be young, you can be old, you can be mid-aged. How do you stand on leading others? Did you ever have to do it? Have you observed yourself do it in your private life or in your professional life? And how did that go? Just take the next 3 minutes to think about it. All right, let us get back. Let's get back. I would like to take one more turn and talk about the leadership as a journey. So what we experience most of the time in the market is a distinction between the outer journey and the inner journey. And if you look at organizations around yourself, but also into businesses around yourself, it can be a small business, a shop, a little community, any little business or little organization. They're typically good at providing the environment for the transactional business experience or the transactional experience at large. So for those of you that know multinational, they don't differ from the small shops. And for those of you that know the small shops, they don't differ from the large multinational organizations. Wherever there are people, the tendency is that typically, well, the environment offers a transactional business experience offered by transactional leaders. That's the predominant thing that we see. Little do we see about environments that provide the right components for an inner journey. And within the inner journey, you have a certain alignment of what you experience with the empathetic side of things, the emotional intelligence side of things, with the self-aware side of things, with the ecosystem or systems thinking side of things. And that will be the inner journey. And in order to become empowered, because that's the reason why we're here, we're looking into empowerment. Well, we need to activate the inner journey. What do we wish for ourselves? How do we want to lead ourselves? Who would we want to be? Who do we want to be in 1 week from now, 1 month from now, 10 years from now? What type of services do we want to offer our community or other businesses? This is all about the inner journey. How do we want to go about this? How do we want to connect with others in order to build something larger, brighter, bolder? And as a freelancer, it's particularly important to place an accent on the inner journey. Why? Well, because that's the core motor, the engine of your motivation. And when you're behind your screen and you offer your services to people, well, you need to be totally motivated and convinced that this is what you want to do, and this is what you want to offer, and this is how you want to work, because that is how you will convince your clients to purchase your services, be it in written format by putting together a nice profile of yours, or live format once you exchange with them orally or even visually. Well, you need to convince your clients. And how do you do that? Well, by triggering, opening the eyes to your inner journey and feeling your power by being empowered. And that's what we are looking into. So that's how we build the bridge to leading self. How or what do we need in order to lead ourselves? These are the components. You see them here in boxes that you need or to look into in order to understand whether you are good or less good or in leading yourself, and where you see room for improvement. And we'll get there. You see already the box of the exercise. It's all about, looking into these boxes and thinking along the lines of, where are my strengths? Where do I see room for improvement? how can I go about those rooms for improvement? How can I maintain my strengths? It's all about that, right? So, but let us first go through these 8 boxes so that you get an understanding of what it is about, and then you can do the exercise. And there again, I'm wondering whether 5 minutes not too long. 3 minutes will be probably sufficient. So, but let us first go through the boxes. Increasing your capacity to learn. This is particularly true again as a freelancer. As a freelancer, you stand on both your feet. You are responsible for your actions, for your non-actions, for what you know and what you don't know, and how you adapt to changing circumstances. So it's very important to increase your capacity to learn and to learn continuously. This needs to be built into a routine. And it needs to be reiterated. So you need to repeat the materials in order to be very good at it and to be able to stand firm on both your feet with self-confidence when you face your clients. So this is about increasing the capacity to learn first. Then you need to be a self-starter. As you know, as a freelancer, you need to particularly be able to self-start. So to initiate your actions, initiate your activities, be on the forefront so that you get visible and people think about you, right? So you need to volunteer as well. You need to be willing to be everywhere and to be engaged and to do good, to do your job well. So it's about the initial energy first. It's about being a self-starter. Then we move into setting vision and strategy. Well, like in any other business, when you are a freelancer, you need to set your own vision with your own strategy so that you are able to understand why you are doing what you're doing, and you are able to understand how you want to do what you want to do. So it's about first the why. Why are you wanting to deliver certain services as a freelancer in this case? And in a second stage, how do you want to go about it? What are the milestones? What are the steps that you want to undertake in order to achieve your goals? Setting vision and strategy. The fourth one is synthesizing. So when you want to convince somebody to purchase your services, you cannot make long stories about why you want to offer those services. It needs to be very concise, short, but not only. It also needs to be precise. So whatever language you choose to express yourself, be it in a written format or orally, it needs to be to the point, concise, and very precise, so that the person who intercepts the messages, who receives the messages, is capable of understanding very well what you are trying to communicate in a very short time, because there are others, if you're very long, they don't have time, right? So be short, be precise, be capable of synthesizing what you're doing, what you're offering, and why you're the person to do that. The next point, the fifth point, is building and maintaining relationships. Networking is very important in order to be successful on the long run, including as a freelancer. You need to be able to connect yourself to others and others to others. We'll take a closer look at it in a moment, but it's very important to spend some time to build and maintain relationships. It's the first step to your own independence, and it's the first step to training what you want to offer in terms of services to the market. So please do that. Take your time every day, I don't know, 10 minutes, 20 minutes of building your network, maintaining your network. The next point is taking risks. Well, as freelancers, you know, and as future freelancers, you should know that daring and being bold is actually the core recipe for success ultimately. It's important to take risks in order to get reward at some point. It's important to throw ourselves into cold waters in order to ultimately learn from what we experience and achieve higher goals, more success, and achieve empowerment. Because if you know your surrounding, the surrounding of the pool that you're bathing in well, then you feel more self-confident and you can offer your services better. In this respect, it's also important to build scenarios and alternative plans as well. The seventh goal is goal orientation. So whatever activity you're undertaking, well, first, before you do that, define your success. What is the success as you see it? What's the success you want to achieve? It can be a large one. It can be a small one. If it's a very large one, probably you want to split it into years, but make sure that you have a plan in place with a success that is well-defined. And then that success, make sure that you are able to measure it with whatever activity you want to undertake. Otherwise, you don't know if you have achieved it, and this will impact your self-confidence. What we want is for you to feel empowered as service providers. So in order for you to feel empowered, you need to know what is your success, and you need to know how to get there, and you need to know if you're getting there. So that's measuring progress towards your goals. That's how when you reach your goals a couple of times, you will feel how you develop your self-confidence, and that will make you feel empowered. Customers focus, the 8th point. Think value, be top of the mind of your customers. So what is the value you want to offer to customers? That's the question. And we'll get to it in a next point about the USP. But think about what value you think about offering to your customers. How can they perceive what you have to offer in terms of service as a value add to them and to their businesses? Why is it valuable, what you have to offer? And how can you, after having offered that, remain on top of their mind so that in the future, they come back to you and ask for further services from you? It's about satisfying their need by providing them with added value so that they think about you and come back to you for further services in the future, be it the near future or the long-term future. So as promised, let us take a moment, maybe 2-3 minutes, to look into these 8 dimensions. Think for yourself thoroughly, where are your strengths? Where do you think you should, improve, and how you think of improving those aspects? It's important, it's very important to understand these points, and then we'll get to the next one.
If you're just coming in, we are taking an exercise, okay? And the current one will last for 5 minutes.
All right, let us get back. So when we move on from here, so it is clear from the point that we saw here with the network and connecting to others that we should talk about what we cannot do. So there are things we can do, each of us, services we can offer, skills that we do have. And then there are those that we don't have. And we need to understand and be true to ourselves. What we can and what we can't do. And we need to understand in a particular task or in a particular domain that we would like to be active in. Well, what is the list of competencies that would be required for that particular task, that job, that particular activity that would be expected in a given setting? So as a freelancer, once you want to engage with an organization, before that organization engages with you, well, you have to know what are the different competences, the skills that are required to be in a business relationship with that particular organization or person. What do they want? And on the basis of that understanding, we all need to assess whether our own competencies are enough. And where it is not enough, we need to, well, connect with others, activate our network of fellow freelancers, check on their competencies and check whether we can reunite and become stronger together and offer a more comprehensive service to the organization that we identified a service to render to. So it's important to look at it from a very, grounded point of view. Not all tasks that you will encounter in your life as a freelancer will be a closed circle where you will be able to service alone. I'm pretty sure sometimes you will identify great projects that you could contribute to, where you would actually need to pair up with a fellow other freelancer in order to render those services. But first you need to understand what's the nature of the skills that are expected, how you can provide with your skills the service to a certain degree, and who has the skills necessary within your network or the connected network, we'll get to it in a moment, in order to provide the complementary skills and ultimately provide those more comprehensive services together. And before we get to that, building up on everything that we have been seeing so far, we need to take a look at finding our unique selling proposition, the USP. I've written an example for myself here. My name is Muge Coteli. I'm an expert in 1, developing new, and 2, expanding on existing business models with the help of technology. As you can see, a unique selling proposition is a very short description, 1, 2 sentences, 3 sentences top, but that's already too long. 1, 2 sentences describing in very short, brief, precise terms what it is that you are offering to the market. Now, in the coming minutes, what we will do is we will work on identifying your unique selling proposition. And to do that, we will first start with, and it's not 5 minutes, I will shorten this time frame, it's 3. I'm going to give you 3 minutes to think of one professional success that you have had so far and that you are most proud of. And it can be also, I wrote professional, but it could be also something else. Just think about a success that you are most proud of, where you have provided a service to others. What, in your view, has made this successful? Why are you so proud of it? And how can you use the success to differentiate yourself from others? It's an exercise. So be as commercially minded as possible. That would be helpful. Talk in past tense when describing that success, you know, a couple of sentences, and talk in the future tense when describing the way to leverage that experience in order to differentiate yourself from others. Right, I'll give you 3 minutes to do that. Go. All right, let us get back. Now we will move from this point. This is a first and initial brainstorming for yourself. We will move from here to the next one. I'd like to know, in your view, you know, when you look at everything that you have been as a private human being, as a professional so far, when you look at yourself, what do you love to do? What is it that you love to do? It can be in your private life as well, some activities that you absolutely love to do. Make a list. I'll give you 3 minutes again. Make a list of everything you love to do. It needs to be absolute happiness when you do it. Make a list, please. Thank you. All right, let us get back. The next one is, what are you good at? So, because what you love to do is not necessarily what you are good at. Now, let us focus on what you're really good at, and what you, that could be something that you don't love to do. You just know you're very good at it. And people tell you how good you are at it, but it's just, it's not necessarily what you love to do. It's something you're very good at. Make a list. We'll take another 3 minutes, 2-3 minutes. Write them down. Let's go. All right, let us get back. This is the ultimate question. What is the overlap? Is there any overlap between what you love to do and what you are good at? Because that's your sweet spot. And that's what we will build on in order to build your USP. And that will enable you to also identify the optimal service to offer as a freelancer. So your goal in the next 2 minutes, I'll give you 2 minutes, and I'm going to readjust these times for the next sessions. 2 minutes to find your sweet spot. What's the overlap between the two? Let's go. All right, guys. So we have now identified the overlap. Now I'm going to give you 10 minutes, and this is very important. It's actually one of the most important parts of this of today. It's to find your unique selling proposition, because this is what will make you feel more secure. It will make you feel more self-confident, and it will make you feel empowered. It's what you will go away with in the end of today. So we need to find your USP. Write 1-2 sentences, ideally leveraging what we've seen before, the sweet spot. Write 1-2 sentences describing in very precise, concise terms, what is your unique selling proposition? What's your USP? Why should people come to you for a service? Let us do so. I'll give you 10 minutes. This is one of the most important parts, if not the most important parts of today. So please focus. 10 minutes, you go. And maybe for those who have multiple activities in mind, maybe think about writing USP 1, USP 2, USP 3 for the different activities or services that you would like to render. It would be good to have a couple of those if you want to diversify on the types of service that you would like to offer as a freelancer. All right, guys, let us get back. So now that we know our unique selling proposition and we know what we cannot offer to the market, we also know how networking is important. We feel it better, we understand it better. Now, in order to be a networker, we need to understand very briefly the levels of connections that we have between each other. So there's the level 1, which is between people that know each other. Then there is the level 2. It's me knowing that Femi knows somebody else. That's level 2. And level 3 are people that we are not in contact with and that are potentially within the network of somebody that a person in your network knows. Now, looking at the 3 levels, we can say that in order to be successful on the long run, we need to maintain the relationships that we have on level 1 and make sure that they're healthy. And we need to connect our level 1 to our level 1, so between each other, in order to help other peers within level 1 turn their cold calls in their business relationships into warm calls. So by connecting people within level 1 that do not know of each other or do not know each other, we enable them to have their level 2 connected to their level 1 and move from a cold call they would be giving to each other to a warm call. And we need to leverage that same power coming from others in order to be able to connect with the level 2 and connect with their level 2 or level 1, so as to be able to have our level 3 become our level 1. So that's being a networker. It's all about connecting, bringing together new networks, bringing together new connections, enlarging our own network, and proactively nurturing that network with giving and also with taking. So how do you do that? As a freelancer, we need to get strategic here. So as a freelancer, you need to surround yourself with complementary skills in particular and nurture their interests so as to be able to get the same in return. So we need to surround ourselves with people that bring in the complementary skill that will enable us to perform even better on the market and bring even more comprehensive skill sets to potential clients. That will help you not only, as I mentioned, offer more comprehensive services, but also referred by them to potential projects that they know of where your complementary skill would be required in order to offer their more comprehensive services. That's being a networker. Now, another part that is very important is the power of reflection. And I would like to use 1 or 2 minutes to get into this. It's very important. It's important every time that you perform as a freelancer to get regular feedbacks from your customers and other people in your ecosystem that you have been dealing with that have been also maybe active on that same project. So how do you do that? Well, you ask about the key takeaways of your customer after the interaction or the collaboration with you. Same goes for the fellow freelancers. The reflection needs to be around what did go well, what did you do well, what was particularly appreciated, why, where is there some room for improvement, why, and how can we bridge the gap between the two. So overall, we need to regularly ask ourselves the question, are we getting better at what we are doing? Is the trend upwards? And how can we do it even better? Now, I would like to also touch upon the concept of failure. It's something that we also, unfortunately, hear often. Failing is something that is perceived rather negatively, but I would like to hear from you. So when when you hear the word or read the word failure, what comes to your mind? I'll give you 1 minute to think about it, not 3. 1 minute. What are the words that come to mind when you read failure? All right. So let us go through this term, because you will probably, as a freelancer, be facing the concept of failure. You will be more often than not having the impression potentially of a failure. So let us go through this concept briefly. So on the journey to freelancing, you will encounter success as well as moments that will be less convincing for you or for your customer or people that you work with on the particular project. Our society has a tendency to call these moments failures. In science, these moments are called experiments. And they lead to findings in R&D, in research and development, that change the course of history. The biggest findings in science were the fruit of mistakes, things that were unplanned, failures. So literally an attempt was failed and a finding that came out of it as a result changed the course of history. Now, just like those experiments, the own development is a zigzag to an optimum that gets reached. And that optimum shifts again, and we need to zigzag back again until a new optimum is reached. There is no status, just as there is no system that has no expiration date. And more often than not, well, we do fail. So those need to be not considered as this traditional term of failure. And the reason is the right turn is around the corner. It's closer than we think. And the only advantage of finding the right turn early is to not lose too much time. So that is why in this journey to freelancing and in general in business, and in our careers, let us take a look at our failures as the necessary steps to our own success. And as much as it comes across as a setback, it is not. It is what we need to go through in order to succeed right thereafter. Because as a good friend of mine says every now and then, it cannot rain every day. So the right turn is around the corner. We need to just move on. 1 more step, 2 more steps, 3 more steps. Now, the power of sharing failures is another thing. It's more a newer approach, and I'd like to give you another minute to think about it. So when you hear sharing failures, what type of immediate connections come to mind? Just put down your thoughts, make a list, and look at your list straightforward, like with honesty, and let us go through that one as well in 1 minute. All right. So we all have our pride. Pride is a big term. It's closely connected to ego. It's what we all have. Nature made it in order for people and animals, but foremost people, can protect themselves. So this is also why when others call our action or our life or certain moments of our lives a failure, we feel shame. And when we feel shame, we hide what we are not proud of. So instead, we should, if we would share what happened to us, not only would we learn from the feedback that we would get, but also from the experience that other people would then also share with us, and we would also learn as to how they went about those experiences. So for your own growth's sake, the advice would be to share your failures with others. And many organizations have understood that. So there's a new global movement called Fuck Up Nights. It is dedicated moments that organizations have allocate time to in order for people with different degrees of seniority to share what they did not do well or what people would call a failure. Maybe in order to give a picture to that, I will share one of my failures so that you feel the pride fade away and share yours between each other at some moment in time. Doesn't need to be now, but it's important to illustrate what I mean. Throughout my route, my path, I have moved through several layers of actions. I have studied biochemistry 3 years. You will not see it on my LinkedIn account, but I did. And I did it in a very well-known school. And after that, and without graduating, I moved on to studying 5.5 years law, and I majored twice with honors in international corporate and commercial law. But I didn't choose that profession. I worked a bit more than a year as a lawyer, and I moved on. People were not understanding what I did. I just moved on, and I found a fantastic organization where I did their leadership program. And I completely dove into fintech, legal tech, impact. I built new digital solutions for that organization and their clients. It was a fantastic Valentine time in my career. And close to being promoted once again and being sent to another continent, I decided to stop and to opt for an international executive MBA, which I did. Now, throughout that route, there have been multiple times where people wondered what I was doing. And they didn't understand why I was literally zigzagging my way up or forward, because it wasn't clear that it was upwards. So I did feel shame, and in particular because society makes us believe that a linear path is the path to go, and that leads to sustainable success. So today I can say with pride, talking about pride, that it is literally thought leadership to not walk a linear path and own the zigzag in our lives. So as freelancers, whatever service you would like to offer today do not need to be the services you will offer tomorrow. You can upskill, like Sourcing, wants to enable. You can upskill yourself, and you can offer very diverse services to the customers that would like to buy those services. And you do not need to feel shame. You don't need to have the impression that being a beginner is a failure. It is not. It is just a diversification of skills that will enable you to better be prepared for the risks that life brings towards you. Because life is navigating ambiguity, and in order to better navigate ambiguity, we have, an advantage in building a toolbox filled with very different tools that will help us navigate with ease. So that's for my story. I invite you to share yours between each other and be in peace with your own path. You're walking the right one. Just take one step at a time. And as a last exercise today, I will give you 2 minutes. We have today March 13th. Tomorrow is Monday, March 14th. The question is simple. The answer might be less simple. What will you do differently tomorrow? Take your time. Write down a couple of thoughts and take them with you tomorrow before you start your day. And we'll see where it leads you. I'll be with you next week as well. So take 2 minutes. All right, guys. We will close on this note. So thank you very much for your time. And I hope that you will have learned a little bit more about you today. And as a result, you will feel more empowered tomorrow. The whole point of this session was to internalize the concept of empowerment in order to better tap into our own potential and our own power. So I'm looking forward to seeing you again next week, and I will end the show now. So I'll get back to Femi. Femi, where are you? Wait a minute, I'll stop sharing my screen. Do you see me now? I think you're on mute.
All right, can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Thank you so much for your time. That was very loaded, very enriching, presentation. And I believe that those who are not able to connect today will definitely, listen to the video during the week and be able to take the task and also be able to connect with you next week. Okay. So thank you so much for your time, and everyone. Thank you. Okay, you can unmute yourself. You can reach out to Muge. You can greet her. I think that was a very good one. We have 2 minutes to go. So Thank you so much. We really appreciate your time. Okay, I can see a lot of comments coming in to say thank you. Thank you, Popo. Okay, Timothy said thank you, Muge. All right, so thank you so much, everyone. Please, let's encourage others so that
Thank you so much, sir.
next Sunday will be more
Thank you so
powerful.
much, Muge. I really appreciate. Thank you so much.
You're
You're
welcome.
most welcome.
Thank you, Muge. It was eye-opening. It was an eye-opener for us.
Okay.
So much.
All right. Thank you, guys. So we meet again next Sunday. She has one more session with us next Sunday. So that's a
Thank you
privilege.
very much. I love your smile.
Thank you, everyone, and see you soon next week. Bye, everyone.
Yeah, bye.
All right.
Bye. Bye-bye.